The world is too small, our wisdom too limited, our time here too short to waste any more of it in winning fleeting victories at other people's expense.
And in so doing, bring new strength and stability to families as well.
The Clinton Global Initiative, which brings philanthropists and CEOs together with nonprofits to make concrete commitments aimed at some of the world's toughest problems. Almost 10 years in, they have leveraged billions of dollars in assistance in more than 180 countries.
If you put me to work for you, I'll work to lift people up, not push them down.
You're against same-sex marriage, now you're for it. You defended President Obama's immigration policies, now you say they're too harsh. You supported his trade deal dozens of times. You even called it the gold standard. Now, suddenly last week, you're against it. Will you say anything to get elected?
Well, actually, I have been very consistent over the course of my entire life. I have always fought for the same values.
Do you think New York State should recognize gay marriage?
No.
No. Okay.
I believe that marriage is not just a bond, but a sacred bond between a man and a woman. I have not supported same-sex marriage. I have supported civil partnerships and contractual relationships. I support marriage for lesbian and gay couples. I support it personally and as a matter of policy and law.
Character is defined as what we do when we think no one is looking. By that standard, many critics say the Clintons are sorely lacking. On January 20th, 2001, President Clinton issued 140 pardons on his last day in office. Those pardoned or receiving commuted sentences included cocaine trafficker Carlos Vignali and the biggest tax fugitive in U.S. history, Mark Rich. As much as those pardons reveal about Bill, an earlier pardon may have revealed even more about Hillary's character and her willingness to do anything to get elected.
In September 1999, right in the middle of her Senate campaign, she was approached by City Councilman Jose Rivera, who really is a spokesman for the Hispanic community in New York, who gave her a packet urging the pardoning of the FALN terrorists. And included in the packet was a letter to Hillary asking her to use her influence on her husband to get these pardons granted. And 2 days later, they were.
Freedom came today for most of the 14 Puerto Ricans who accepted President Clinton's controversial gift of clemency. 11 of them, who describe themselves as nationalists, some others describe them as terrorists, were released from federal prisons around the country.
It made no sense. Not one of the incarcerated FALN terrorists had requested clemency or had expressed any remorse. In fact, prior to that action, the Clinton administration had granted clemency in just 3 cases out of over 3,000 applications, according to the Office of the Pardon Attorney at the Justice Department.
I finally parted company with Hillary Clinton when I saw how she was using private detectives to investigate the women who were linked to her husband. Not to change him, not to reform him, not to make him a better person, but to cow the women into silence so that he could get elected president.
But I want to say one thing to the American people. I want you to listen to me. I'm going to say this again. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. I never told anybody to lie, not a single time, never. These allegations are false.
The great story here, for anybody willing to find it and write about it and explain it, is this vast right-wing conspiracy that has been conspiring against my husband since the day he announced for president.
The society-wide backlash against sexual harassment by powerful producers, actors, and politicians has finally turned and bit the Clintons themselves. Just yesterday, Democratic Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, she's the one who filled Hillary Clinton's New York Senate seat when Hillary left it to become Secretary of State, said that Bill Clinton should have resigned during the Monica Lewinsky scandal. In response, Gillibrand was blasted by Hillary Clinton's longtime spokesman, Philippe Reines. He tweeted this: "Over 20 years, you took the Clintons' endorsements, money, and seat. Hypocrite." But Senator Gillibrand is not alone in turning on the Clintons. Liberal blogger Matt Iglesias, who's defended them for years, he works at Vox, he now says the president should have resigned back then. At an event in Miami, former DNC chair Donna Brazile, also very close to the Clintons, says that Bill Clinton's accusers deserve to be heard. Where's this coming from? What does it mean other than the end of the Clinton era, finally and completely?
You know, there actually used to be a website called the Clinton Body Count, which ran a tally of the people that Hillary and Bill had secretly killed. It was over 90 people. She should demand it be brought back and say, stop lying about my record. I've killed way more than that.
A new report today claims that the Clinton Foundation gives about 10% of its money that it raises to actual charities and the services that they offer.
It has been reported you've made $5 million making speeches. The president's made more than $100 million.
Well, if you have no reason to remember, but we came out of the White House not only dead broke, but in debt.
The Clinton Foundation dropping its self-imposed ban on collecting funds from foreign governments and entities. And now the Washington Post reports total contributions to that foundation amount to $2 billion.
There's a lot of money sloshing around. Everything is blurred, and it's not good.
The questions scream out at me. What in the world happened with the foundation and these ulterior motives and this money and the email server? I'm sorry. Those scream out at me.
The amount of schmoozing involved and crossing lines and one person putting money in a foundation and then Clinton getting unbelievable amounts for his speeches, contracts going one way or another, it's not good.
I also think we'd be a lot better off if we actually talked to each other instead of yelling at each other.
I'm so sick. I am so sick of the Sanders campaign lying about me.
She does seem angry a lot.
Right.
And you're saying behind closed doors when nobody's looking, she's that angry person always. Mostly.
Or distant, cold. What I've been looking at there, Sean, doesn't concern me too much. That's her being a politician. The kind of anger I'm talking about is where she just almost can't even complete a sentence. She starts yelling, screaming, cussing. I talked in the book how she...
By the way, mistreating people in their positions.
Sure.
All the time.
Yes, the uniform division officers, agents.
So this is like you're describing a phony, fake, fraudulent human being.
Absolutely.
All right, let me give you an example. This is Hillary, saying she remembers landing under sniper fire when she went to Bosnia. This is what she said.
I remember landing under sniper fire. There was supposed to be some kind of a greeting ceremony at the airport, but instead we just ran with our heads down to get into the vehicles to get to our base.
Great image making, but here's the problem. We have the real video, and this is it. This is Hillary arriving not under sniper fire, but she walks up to a group of young girls who give her flowers and give her gifts. That's not exactly sniper fire. So is that the person that you're trying to warn America about?
Yes.
Explain. In other words, she sits with an interview with Bill. You think they're the happiest couple together. The light goes off. She hates him.
I saw her vent on her husband many, many times. In one particular situation, we were at a fundraiser. As we entered the elevator to go to the top floor of this hotel, Mrs. Clinton lit into her husband with every profane four-letter word you've ever heard in your life, and as a military guy, I've heard them all. The anger really took me by surprise, how vicious it was and how profane it was, and then of course, we got to the top floor of the elevator, of the hotel, and the elevator opened. They were holding hands and smiling and waving like they could turn it on and off in a heartbeat.
And she would continuously berate people, as I mentioned before, but she was like two different people. Again, she would be polite and nice to everybody when the cameras were on, and then when they were off, she was just cold, distant.
Seconds later.
Just almost instantly. I mean, that's what I've experienced quite a few times.
In July, New Hampshire, you told the crowd you, quote, take a backseat to no one when it comes to progressive values.
I take a backseat to no one when you look at my record and standing up and fighting for progressive values.
Last month in Ohio, you said you plead guilty to, quote, being kind of moderate and center. Do you change your political identity based on who you're talking to?
No, I think that, like most people that I know, I have a range of views, but they are rooted in my values and my experience.
I get accused of being kind of moderate and center. I plead guilty.
Just for the record, are you a progressive or are you a moderate?
I'm a progressive.
Time and time again, you hear one thing in speeches, and then you see a campaign that has the worst kind of tactics, reminiscent of the same sort of Republican attacks on Democrats. Well, I am here to say that it is not only wrong, but it is undermining core democratic principles. Since when do Democrats attack one another on universal health care?
I've looked at the legislation that Senator Sanders has proposed, and basically he does eliminate the Affordable Care Act, eliminates private insurance, eliminates Medicare, eliminates Medicaid, TRICARE, Children's Health Insurance Program.
Just because Senator Obama chose not to present a universal health care plan does not give him the right to attack me because I did. The Democratic Party in the United States worked since Harry Truman to get the Affordable Care Act passed. So shame on you, Barack Obama. It is time you ran a campaign consistent with your messages in public.
Greetings from Washington. I want to thank all of you for your work to root out corruption that weakens economic development, feeds black markets and organized crime, and undermines the promise of democracy.
Hillary is so corrupt. She got kicked off the Watergate Commission. How corrupt do you have to be to get kicked off the Watergate Commission? Pretty corrupt.
Every document that we have obtained has been turned over to the special counsel, no matter where it came from.
Mrs. Clinton, can you tell us what you know about stories about shredding of Whitewater documents down in Arkansas?
Nothing.
At the gubernatorial mansion?
Oh, that didn't happen, and I know nothing about any other such stories.
We know nothing about documents relating to Whitewater ever shredded anywhere that you know about or authorized or didn't authorize?
Absolutely not.
The problem with nostalgia is what we tend to do is you only remember what you like, and you and you forget the parts that you didn't like.
Secretary Clinton said there was nothing marked classified on her emails either sent or received. Was that true?
That's not true.
Secretary Clinton said, I did not email any classified material to anyone on my email. There is no classified material. Was that true?
There was classified material emailed.
Secretary Clinton said she used just one device. Was that true?
She used multiple devices.
Secretary Clinton said all work-related emails were returned to the State Department. Was that true?
No, we found work-related emails, thousands.
Did her lawyers read the email content individually?
No.
The server contains personal communications from my husband and me.
Only time I got on the internet, I did 2 emails, and I ordered Christmas presents from a reservation. Otherwise, I found people said embarrassing things on emails. I didn't want to be one of them.
When you speak to the public, you say, I turned over everything. That's, for the most part, a direct quote. When you talk to the public, you say, I turned over everything.
90 to 95% of my work-related emails were in the state system. If they wanted to see them, they would certainly have been able to do so.
You know what? That is maybe the 10th time you have cited that figure today. The Inspector General report found that less than 1% of State Department emails, record emails, were captured. So they give a number of less than 1%, and you give a number of 90%.
Well, I don't know why that's funny. I mean, did you have any in-person briefings? I don't find it funny at all.
We got to stop calling this a Trump-Russian dossier. It is really nothing more than a political hit job on Donald Trump. And frankly, what's incredible here is that Hillary Clinton has been sanctimoniously lying about this for more than a year and essentially calling Trump's actions treasonous. And lo and behold, we find out that she was the one, or her campaign was the one actually behind this political hit job.
That indeed is the irony of it all, Liz Peek, because we've been talking about Russia collusion. And may actually look as though there was indeed some Russian collusion. It just wasn't with the players the Democrats wanted us to think.
For instance, we can bring up Mr. Browder in this particular case. Business associates of Mr. Browder have earned over $1.5 billion in Russia. They never paid any taxes, neither in Russia nor in the United States. And yet the money escaped the country. They were transferred to the United States. They sent huge amount of money, $400 million, as a contribution to the campaign of Hillary Clinton. Well, that's their personal case. It might have been legal, the contribution itself, but the way the money was earned was illegal.
American people deserve to know that their presidency is not for sale, the Lincoln bedroom is not for rent, and lobbyist money can no longer influence policy in the House or the Senate.
Just to say it one time again, and I say it all the time, there was no collusion. I didn't know the president. There was nobody to collude with. We ran a brilliant campaign, and that's why I'm president.
Yeah.